Yo, what up, and welcome to my January and February reads. I just got through 4 books, so not a lot, and we'll see if I can finally keep this video short and sweet. Well, not so sweet, I didn't like the books. So these are the 4 books that I read in these 2 months, and let's get started with Paperweight by Meg Haston. Now, this follows a girl who gets put in a facility to treat her eating disorder. The girl, right off the bat, is not very likable. She's very obviously defensive and wrapped up in her disorder, but still, there is not really anything that makes you want to root for her. I found the strongest thing here is that how they describe the treatment. I learned a lot, and I found these things quite interesting. But I didn't find interesting was the whole backstory to the Stevie and her relationships with her friend, and family. I just found her whole backstory quite unbelievable, and yes, I'm just trying to think of something nice to say, but I don't have it. And I just didn't understand Stevie at all, and this is not to say that I didn't understand the disorder, although I do not understand the disorder, but I just didn't understand the character choices that the author made. I would say that if somebody is afraid that this book might be triggering, then it can be. But I would say it was not as triggering as I was thinking, because they don't really dwell or describe the disordered behavior. They really concentrate on the things that make it better, or where they try to work through this disordered thinking. So I would suggest this book for a read for people who maybe are struggling with it. And yes, that's it. But I do feel like the author could have made better choices with shaping out the main character. Now, the second book that I read was Raven Tower by Leckie. Now, Leckie is one of my favorite sci-fi authors right now, and this is why I picked up this book as soon as it came out, because this was her venturing into fantasy realm. And this book, right, so it's basically about gods, and there is this power struggle of gods going on behind the power struggle between men. Obviously, this trope has been done, but basically half or even more of this book is this existential crisis of one of the original big gods, who is a rock. So it sounds just as interesting as you gather from that. And it was such a struggle to get through. The pace was so slow. The plot itself wasn't that interesting, and it got better only during, I would say, the last 50 pages. But if you look at it, that is quite a lot of pages. I wouldn't have finished it if it wasn't for the author. I did find it... No, I didn't find it interesting. So yes, this was really just a no for me. The choices of how to tell the story were weird for me. The protagonist, or the god who was telling it, was odd. The way that the god was telling this story to another character who was going through the actions here, but the other character wasn't aware that the story was being told to him. it was odd. The world was quite depressing, and right. Another disappointing book was Weird Things Customers Say in Bookshops, and it was compiled by Jen Campbell by the Twitter tweets. And the nail, the blurb at the bottom of here says that Neil Gaiman said, "So funny, so sad, read it and sigh," and I did. I read it and sighed because it was very like looking down on people. I mean, do you have books by Jane Eyre? Oh, so funny, haha. Most of the jokes were like that, just people being unaware what authors were or what books were, like somebody coming into an antique bookstore and asking about a current roadmap. How funny. Or just somebody coming to a bookstore and asking, can I buy toilet paper? How is this funny? It's not true. I would say that just 95% of it was very meh. And what I did enjoy were the illustrations. Those were pretty cute. But yes, I mean, I feel like these jokes are funny when you're in the moment, but when you just write them down, they don't translate as well. And maybe I was just in a really bad mood when I was reading it. But for the final book, I read Tell Me How You Really Feel by Aminah Mae Safi. And this was a young adult novel, and it follows two girls, Rachel and Sana, and how they kind of sort of fall in love. Now, for the first couple of chapters, the author's decision how to portray Rachel were very questionable, because she was really a bastard. There was nothing likable about her. I was like, I was quite upset that she would end up with Sana, who was really, really cool, like very well fleshed out character, very easy to fall in love with. She's a cheerleader, but she has bigger ideas what she wants to do. Now, the only part of her character was her family, especially at the beginning of the book. Again, the author says herself that she's influenced by Gilmore Girls, and it was very much like Rory and her relationship with her mother and grandparents. If you've seen Gilmore Girls, maybe it wouldn't bother you, but it did kind of bother me. And especially because it felt like it was just taking this relationship and then just dressing it up in a different nationality. And now, other than that, it was really good. I feel like when the author started the book, it was one thing, and when she finished it, it was another thing. It got better progressively. And if you want a good, solid young adult book that isn't like too soft, like Fading into the Black, because this does have some steamy bits, then I would suggest you to read it. The plot was interesting to follow, and it was thought-provoking as well, because they're trying to film a movie about the War of Troy, and then the Helen of Troy, what kind of character she is. It's kind of reflective of how Rachel sees pretty girls, and then how Sana interprets what the pretty girls really are like. So kind of feminist in a way. Solid book. That's it. So yes, these were the books I read in January and February, and this is to show that just sometimes when the books are not good, the reading part will not be as enjoyable, and you will read less, because it's not that I didn't have time, or that I didn't want to read, or that I didn't have motivation. I had a lot of motivation, but when I just grabbed the books, it took forever to get through them. I have already finished 4 books in March, so I feel like this month will be better, especially now that we have to stay in and can't go out. So I have so many books I need to finish. But yes, quite a disappointing review for you, I would say, and quite disappointing months for me. But I hope you still liked it. Leave a like, subscribe, all that jazz. And if you disagree about any of the books that I read, then do leave your comments down below, and we'll see who's right. Thank you so much for watching. Stay healthy. Bye bye.